Hi, this is Eric from longboxreview.com, and this is Center Seat, my Star Trek podcast. Hello and welcome to this episode of Center Seat. This is a very special episode because I have a podcasting legend joining me today. This is Darrell Taylor, the mastermind and captain, or maybe I should say admiral, I'm not sure, Darrell, behind the Taylor network of podcasts, which includes DC All-Stars, which I'm a great fan of, Gotham by Geeks, many others, including... At one point, maybe Go Trek Yourself. I'm not sure what the status of that is, but Darrell can maybe talk about it. Hey, Darrell, how you doing?
I'm good. Legend. I don't know about the legend. Not all. I just say not all heroes wear capes. I do that. That's when everybody roll their eyes at the same time. No, me and there's an artist, J.K. Woodward. He does a lot of comic art. He basically did like a ton of Star Trek comics, and he's worked for Paramount before doing promo art, everything. They've asked him to do posters, Star cruises, the Trek cruises, and all that kind of crazy stuff.
Oh wow, I didn't know he did that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but it's great because we always used to love when we meet up at cons and at bars and whatnot. We would always fall into a conversation about Trek because we're both big Trekkies that watched every single show of everything, cartoon, didn't matter what it was. But issue is, I'm a regular civilian who works a regular office job, and he is an artist, and of course their work is deadline heavy. So we'd be good for recording in 3 weeks in a row, and then we'd fall into a thing where he can't do it, and then a month would go by or two, or con season comes and it'd be like 4 months and then we wouldn't record an episode. So it was so chaotic and just hard to keep up with after a while. And so I just said, when I had to move everything from the old servers that shut down and I moved to Libsyn, it's like you pay for every feed that you create. And so I'm like, I'm not spending a bunch of money for a feed that I'm only going to do every now and again sometimes. And so we changed it. We pretty much went back to doing JK's Happy Hour, where we used to, when he was in New York, along with me, we would have comic people come in to the neighborhood bar that we went to, and they would hang out with us and drink, and we'd record it. And that's kind of what we did for a while until he moved. And so what we did, because we had like Charles Soule before he became, a mainstream comic writer, on top of his, creator-owned stuff. He was still working as a lawyer, and he would come in and we would record. And, some things you would hear were crazy because we'd all be drunk by then. And so things would slip out every now and again. And you'd be like, oh my, that I didn't know that. And so what we did was we do that now, but we only do it once a month. That makes it a lot easier to keep up with. And then I just have to do the bells and whistles of putting the bar music and stuff in it to make it sound like we're in a bar. And I just let the Trek thing just kind of fade away. Like Captain Kirk had to eventually before he died on the scaffold. That's what we did.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I neglected to say that we are here today to talk about Star Trek Picard season 3.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about episode 1. But before we do that, I have some questions about for Darrell.
Yes.
because I know, because yeah, obviously, you talk about Go Trek yourself, your Star Trek podcast that
Yeah.
is on permanent hiatus, or
Well, I mean, you can always throw in an episode or two on the same feed as my other, the bar one we do and talk about it every now and again. But it's not something where it's a regular thing and we have to worry about it.
mm-hmm.
So,
I know you're a huge Star Trek fan because you've told me in private messages as we've
yeah.
been talking about getting together to talk Star Trek. And
Yes, I harassed you. I'm sorry. What happened is I listened to the Long Box, and every now, when you do talk, you do a Trek episode. I get all excited. I'm listening to it, and then I start to message you. It's like, oh man, I wish I could talk Star Trek with someone because
mm-hmm.
Peter takes forever to watch episodes because he has tons of things to do,
Well,
right?
that, and he has to go back to the very beginning and
And he
work his way
always,
through.
it drives me nuts, drives me insane because I'm like, God dang it! Like we could be talking about it, and you can't, so you have to wait. So can't do that, and then it's like no one else really is into Trek like I am that are on the other podcasts that I'm on,
Oh, okay.
except for JK. Like some of them casually watch it, but they're not insane
mm-hmm.
like I am about it.
Well,
And
I mean, your Twitter name, your display name says Darrell Starfleet Taylor. So
exactly insane. Insane. It is utterly insane. I am truly to New York Comic Con one time. I wore there's a picture of me sitting with Tom King before he was the Tom King, when he had a table by that he would just do himself, and I'm sitting there with in a Star Trek robe. I have on a captain's robe.
Oh, you got
that's
one of
yellow with the stripes. I had it. I was, and it didn't survive the years, but it's me sitting there just like a fool sitting in New York Comic Con in the middle of the aisles with my robe on at the con.
Mm-hmm.
I was that guy. But yes, I am that. I am the eye rolly. I'm so into it that I remember things that no one else should remember. Nothing important that would help me make money in life or
right.
make you famous, but just, you just remember things because you watched the show. That's all.
So, okay. So how, what's been your history and experience with Star Trek? When did you, when did you start watching it?
My mother, I blame my mother. She was an undercover sci-fi fan, which I didn't know until later on. Like I didn't notice it till years would pass. Like I would catch her, like every now and again I would, I'd come in the room or whatever, and she's watching TV, and I'll go to tell her something or ask her something, and I look, and she's got like TNG on, or she has like Deep Space Nine on, and I'm sitting there going, I forgot what I wanted to ask her because I'm like, are you really watching this stuff? Like, I didn't know that you liked it like this. But she wasn't one who would like, I could run and tell her, do you think Picard is going to die after, you think Riker's going to really kill Picard and he's going to die, waiting for the summer to pass so I can watch it? I couldn't ask her stuff like that because she wasn't into it like that, but she watched it on her own, secretly, never mentioning these things. So she would put on the original series while we would eat dinner. Like every Saturday it would come on, and so we'd have dinner together. And I remember it used to come on at 6:00, and I would come in from playing outside, and we would sit down and we would watch, and it just became a natural thing. I would watch it. I would watch all the episodes when they started to come on syndication weekly, and when the TNG came on, I was there watching that 2-hour little, two-parter movie that they had on. When DS9 came on, I stayed up and watched because I begged. I stayed up and watched the 2-hour movie premiere of that. I bought all the DS9 VHS tapes, one season at a time. I just kept buying them and buying. That was when it was like $4,000 to own those sets, and I bought them like that. And then Voyager came. Like every one of them was something you watch. Like I remember sitting there going, the Borg episode, sitting there having to wait
Yeah.
2 months
Yeah.
before you knew how this was going to end.
That was our version of Who Shot JR.
Yes,
That
it definitely
the
was.
best of both worlds two-parter. Oh my God, that was such an amazing.
Drove me nuts.
Yeah.
Drove me nuts. And there was nobody outside I could talk to. I'd try to start talking about it. My friends would be like, "Why are you talking about this? I don't care." Like,
so how old were you about that time? Were you when you discovered Trek?
oof, had to have been, I don't know, probably like 9 or 10, I guess, when they
Mm-hmm.
were doing that. I had to have been around that age, or maybe a little young. Might have been a little younger, probably,
Okay.
when they did syndication, because it stayed on syndication for quite a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've talked about this before on previous episodes, but one of my very first memories, in fact, is waking up from a nap and looking at the television and seeing Spock.
Mm,
And so from then on, my life, in terms of when I think about television,
right.
was always about Star Trek and cartoons, of course, but Star Trek was kind of like the very first non-cartoon show that I remember.
Yeah. Do you remember going to see motion picture? Do you remember that
Oh, yeah.
Friday when they would air some stuff? Remember they had like a little special on TV? They did it for Wrath of Khan too, but they had like a
Oh,
little
mm-hmm.
TV special,
Yep.
and then my mother took me, and this is when you had to go to the movies at the crack of dawn to see a movie, because you couldn't reserve seats. You just, or else you didn't get there early enough. You
Mm-hmm.
stuck in the very, front, or all the way in the back,
Yep.
because they had those big theater, old style theater seats. And I remember I think it was a Happy Meal that you got from McDonald's, and you made it into a shell or something. I think you can make them into they had different ones.
Mm.
And one of them was the shuttle. One of them, I think, was the Birds of Prey, because they were advertising the Klingons, the new version of Klingon that we get to see. And I remember, I still love the motion picture. I would still sit there and watch the entire
Yeah.
run of that. I don't care that it took 30 minutes for the shuttle to get from the Starbase to the Enterprise.
No.
I sat there going.
That was the best part of the movie.
Yes, I loved it.
Seeing that Enterprise. Oh my God.
Didn't matter to me.
Yeah.
Let me watch it. Love it. So it's amazing. So I remember all those things, going to see all those movies, with my mom. So just like that was our time. We go to the movies and see these Star Trek movies. And I used to think I was torturing her by making her go. But I think over the years I realized you like them too.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so jealous of your relationship with your mother that way, because in my family, Star Trek was something that I think my parents tolerated because I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't recall them ever going to see any of the Star Trek movies with me.
Oh man!
So that's really awesome that you had
I was spoiled.
You were able to share that with your mother, even if you didn't have anybody else to talk to about Star Trek.
She was it until I found somebody in the circle that I could add to that watched it, and they watched it with me. But that's why Discovery was such a big thing to me, because I get it. My mother she would have loved to have watched Discovery, because she never got to see a black female captain, because you only got that 2-second introduction which made me so mad when they had the thing with the nubbins in the neck, where the conspiracy episode, and they introduced, and they said that she was the youngest officer to become a captain. She even beat Picard's record, right? And I'm sitting there going, "What?" And then, oh yeah, she's dead now.
Yeah.
And the same episode, so you never really got to see, that kind of, you got to see a woman, thankfully, be captain, but you never got to see a woman of color be captain. So it means something. I get it. It means, like, yes, the weaker stories, and they did have issues getting it together in the writing and stuff, but as a Trekkie, I would watch anything Trek oriented. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
yeah.
I'm supporting it no matter what.
Well, I am on record on this show talking about my dissatisfaction at times with Discovery in particular, but really more about Picard. Well, and we'll get there in a second.
Yeah.
But I just want to say, so since we're talking about Discovery,
Hmm.
there's been some news recently as we're recording this about Discovery. Do you want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah, what they're going to do is it's going to end with season 5, and on top of that, the season to they pushed it to 2024. So it's not going to come out. I think it was supposed to come out this year, but now they pushed it back another year. Probably, and that's what makes people think that this definitely was not planned
Oh, okay.
beforehand.
All right.
Because they were done. It was supposed to. I mean, from what they were showing us, remember they had Star Trek Celebration. They showed a trailer, showing the new season like they've done previous.
Mm-hmm.
They did that for Strange New Worlds when that was coming out for the first time. They showed a little trailer and stuff about it and whatnot, and then it would come out in like 5 6 months. So I don't think this was expected by the uh by the cast. I think that I think they were told eventually before it was announced today, but I think it was much later than what they had expected. I don't think they expected this to be the last season,
Mm-hmm.
which makes me think they have to do reshoots to instead of it just being another season, and they
Oh
have
yeah.
to shoot it so that it's an ending.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I hadn't even thought about that. So yeah,
Yeah.
what what kind of proper ending are we going to get for the show? And I'm actually still I think I'm in just starting season 3, so I have a ways to catch up on that show.
Yeah, there's a lot that happened last season also. So she's in a different place that season. So it's gonna be something to see them have to. I don't want to spoil for you, so I can't say, but it's gonna be something where how are they gonna fit it together
Mm-hmm.
if they have to change it and make this the last season?
Okay, yeah, interesting. Now you've got me even more compelled to watch it.
Yeah, it's 5-year mission. So I mean, all Trek series are planned for 5 seasons. I mean, it's just that the others got 2 seasons up until we got to Enterprise, right? And then the ratings, they had problems with the ratings and they never got it together. And so they didn't get an assumed 7 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
But it was always expected to be 5 seasons when
Yeah,
we originally were doing this.
yeah. So just since we're talking about some other treks as well, just real curious,
Mm.
which trek is your favorite, or
It's
your top
hard.
3?
Like,
Right, I know. That's a hard question for me too.
I go back because I do. I go back and forth all the time because I get in these seasons of wanting to watch a show. Like there's some seasons I'll be like, I want to watch a ton of TNG all over again. And then it's another season I'm like, ooh, I want to rewatch all of DS9 again. Or same thing with Voyager and Enterprise. I just go through seasons. I mean, but up there, it's a fight because it's up there is I love, TNG was TNG. I mean, it's always, and I love the original series, yes. But when it comes to like really going back and rewatching a lot, I have noticed over the years, I've gone back to TNG and DS9 the most.
Ah, okay.
Strange New Worlds, I think that they of all the shows probably had the strongest season
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to, just how they told the story in the beginning, how they wrote the characters and everything. Really do think that they had the strongest season. I think because of everything else that had happened, because it's been messy. Trek has always had a messy beginning for every show.
Mm-hmm.
Voyager had, was messy with Voyager because they had the original captain, the original woman that they had to play Janeway didn't work out, and they had to change that and bring Kate Mulgrew in, and then that changed everything. And then there was a rush, and then you had the UPN whole changing of that network, and then they wanted this to be the flagship kind of thing. TNG, that was messy because, you had Gene Roddenberry, and then you had others who wanted to do it differently. And there was a clash between him and the studio and how they wanted to do it. And he didn't want, conflict. And they were, and then when he did pass away and they got, a little bit more power in the studio, then you could tell the difference in the show and how it changed. DS9, they had similar things. There were things that they wanted to do, and it didn't solidify until Bourbon and company kind of walked away, and they were concentrating so much on doing Voyager that they they got out of the way and allowed them to really do things with that show. And then they started to have episodic television on the show, and then they started to play with conflicts, and they started to add more of that into it. And then when they brought in the war aspect of it, then it really started to really move with the characters. So there's always been issues. And then creating Paramount Plus and how they wanted to do that, Discovery went through like a ton of showrunners and whatnot and changes. And so they had that issue. Picard too. Picard is both the first 2 seasons of Picard. Differences with the showrunners, even promos where they were supposed to have certain things in Picard, like the second season was supposed to be the Bajoran. There's something with the Bajoran tablets and all this, and they showed it in a promo. Gone.
Oh, I guess I missed that.
If you look at the original promo where they show his house, where they show the inside of his house, there were Bajoran written scripts on on a tablet. There was other, like, it seemed like they're going to play with Picard's past.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like what they're doing in season 3 was what they were thinking of doing in season 2.
Ah, okay.
But it got hit with COVID. Like, COVID hurt that too. And then there was I don't think what they originally planned to do is what happened in season 2. And because of that, it was a mess.
Well, yeah. Well, the last episode of Center Seat was all about Picard season 2,
right.
and as you, because you messaged me after that was released.
I was with you. I totally it was such a mess. I still don't understand the finale of that show, and I have watched it 4 or 5 times already. Mm-hmm. I have not only watched it 4 or 5 times, I have sat there and tried to look at other YouTube people explain it, because I'm not desperate. I want to know. And it just still doesn't make any sense to me. And I want it to make sense. Yeah. I do. Like, Wesley comes out of nowhere, and then they mix that in with the Travelers are mixed in with the stuff with the supervisor thing. And I was like, what?
Yeah, so many disparate elements of Star Trek lore, and they just it's almost like they took bits and pieces of things from over the years and just kind of threw them in a blender and then just dumped it out. And here's an episode of Picard.
Yeah, and I don't know why they just didn't just go, because this is what people wanted in the first place. You wasted 2 seasons of, like, you could put new people. You do put some new people in. I get it. You put some new people in. Mm-hmm. But why is Geordi not, like, I still sit there every time I look at Picard season 1 mention or something, or it's on there, and I'm sitting there going, why in the world is Geordi not here? Like, Picard, yeah, you did have a close relationship with Data, but it was nowhere near as close as Geordi and Data. Geordi should have been with him at the last moments.
Oh, mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. It was like, how do you not have him there? How do you not ask him to be there for that whole season if you're going to do a Data season,
right? Themed
season? It just, that made no sense to me. Geordi is the father, the grandfather, or whatever you want to call it. Like, he's the godfather of that planet or whatever, when they were talking about it. Not Picard. Yeah. Like, and don't even get me started on that Gollum thing. Like, I was just, who would want a Gollum body with the same issues that you have in your human body? Like, give me a new heart, man. Give me bones that don't creak. Give me knees that work again. Fix my back. Give me my eyesight. Like, I want all that stuff back. Like, don't give me, no, I don't want the same body that's
Right?
already broken down from age.
Give
Hell
me my
no.
20-year-old body and not my
Hell yeah.
I don't know how old, because supposedly in the 24, or I guess we're in the 25th century now,
Yeah.
with the show. People live longer, so who knows how old Picard really is or supposed
Just
to be?
fix the affliction. You like it made no sense for him to want to be in that, but like that's why you knew it was a mess. It made no sense for him to want to be in that body. Just have it that he that they found a way to fix the disease.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. Or put a part of data in the, like they even came up with a thing where the positronic network could help with some neurological diseases.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Huh, you do that after? Like, you couldn't have had it where Data kinda there's a part of the other body of Data's, what is it? The 3rd brother that was from Nemesis, that's a mess also,
Oh,
but
B5.
yeah, B5. You couldn't take a part of B5 or something and use that to fix him? Like, there are just decisions made that it just made me scratch my head. I know other people did too, but we just wanted to see Picard so bad that we just, what are
Yeah.
you gonna do?
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? Like, you're gonna get it. They didn't give you the show you wanted. That was the thing. Like, I don't know, and I don't know why they were so adamant about. Yeah, we know you want him on the Enterprise. We know you want Worf and Riker and even Guinan with him, but no, we're not
Yeah.
going to give you that.
Yeah.
Why would we give you that? No, we're going to give you Picard and a bunch of strangers, and you're going to like it.
Well, and I would say for the most part, I enjoyed the new characters. Oh, and I have to say, I said B5. I meant B4.
Oh, B4,
I
my bad.
Yeah, that was dumb of me to.
I'm old.
Well, yeah, that's my excuse for everything I do wrong
exactly.
on the show.
Exactly. But come on.
All right. Well, okay. So, since unless you have anything else you would like to get off your chest, as it were, regarding Star Trek Picard season 1 or 2, we can move on to jumping into episode 1 of season 3. And I think
Sure.
I think the plan is for the listeners here and for the two of us, we plan on going through the rest of the season as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but for this episode, we're just going to cover because at the time of this recording,
Right.
the first 3 episodes have been released. I have not watched episode 3, Darrell. So just
Oh my gosh, I won't say anything,
okay,
but
yeah,
it's crazy.
I just want, just in case you might mention
Okay.
something, I wanted to warn you. I've not watched
All
it,
right.
but then so we'll cover this first episode, and then I think we'll see how we're going to cover the rest of the season as we go on.
Okay.
So we'll talk about that after we're done recording.
Oh yeah, we'll work it out.
Probably should have talked about this before we started, but anyway, here we are.
Yeah.
So we got Star Trek Picard season 3. Episode 1 called "The Next Generation," and I have just a few notes here. Just you were talking before about how COVID affected season 2 and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So season 3 was officially confirmed on Star Trek Day 2021. I think I even talked about that in my Star Trek Day episode for that year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I already mentioned that it was filmed back to back with season 2. And,
yeah.
And so it says here, according, and I'm getting this information from Memory Alpha. So I don't know how.
We're samesies. That's what we're.
Yeah, I can't.
Everyone's the same thing.
I can't speak to the veracity of it, but anyway.
Right.
It says in order to control costs and accommodate production schedules. Let's see. They began in September of 2021. Just after second season wrapped at the end of August. So, mere days or even just weeks.
Oh yeah.
Going from season 1 or season 2 to season 3, which that's, we're talking before about Patrick Stewart's age, I mean, I have to imagine that was a bit tiring for him to
Well, there
turn
are
around and do
scenes,
that.
but it can go into the episode. But there are a few scenes that I look at him and he seems tired. But
Mm.
but I could go with it being I'm also running around. When I haven't been running around in so long, and I'm running around on a ship, getting shot at by crazy aliens I don't know. But it just looked like he's like, yeah, I'm tired. Like
Yeah.
this is a lot. This is a lot.
And so so it started in September, and production finished in March of 2022.
I remember when they announced it too,
Yeah,
that it was
so
done. Yeah.
that's interesting that so September, so about 6 months ish
Yeah. Because do
of
you remember right after they finished the finale of Picard season 2, they did a little thing on the warp. I watched that Ready Room
Mhm.
show, and he was sitting still. I think he was still on set, if I'm not mistaken, but he was like talking to Will Wheaton in the chair, talking about that they were still filming as we speak. Like right now, we're still and we're almost done. Like he was like, we're almost finished filming, and
Yeah.
he had announced that we did these back to back so that we could stay on a schedule.
Yeah. Okay. And then in April, so about a month after they finished shooting, that's when they started revealing that the original cast of the Next Generation would join the Picard cast for the
Yeah.
third season.
And we all yelled about freaking time. We all yelled this. I know.
And as the quote here is, as a means of finally giving their characters, quote, a proper send off.
Yeah.
So I want to keep that in mind as we continue to watch these episodes and what we think about that.
Okay.
So yeah, LeVar Burton, Michael Dorn, Jonathan Frakes, of course, Gates McFadden, Marina Sirtis, and Brent Spiner, and yet another Data knockoff role.
Yes, they're determined. They're going to play this
Oh my
Brent
God.
Spiner thing.
But at least, I am looking forward to seeing him return as Lore as opposed to yet another Sung character. So,
Right. Yeah, yeah, I know it's rough. I mean, I want to see him, but it just was weird that every season he's playing another descendant. It's like, how many descendants are we going to see?
exactly. So I think we're at what, 5, maybe
I
4,
think
something like that. between what we saw in
Enterprise.
Next Gen, Enterprise, and Picard
Mhm.
now. Yeah, good Lord. Oh, and there were 2 in Picard, weren't there? Yeah, in the first season and
Yeah,
second season, two different Sungs.
oh,
Oh well,
stretching. They were stretching.
they were, boy. But Spiner seems quite content to pocket that paycheck. So
Well, his whole thing was the aging thing, right? He didn't want to sit there trying to be Data when he looks, his age.
yeah,
Like he looks his age, and
yeah.
he's not going to be, slim, you know, young Data. It's just not
Hmm.
going to do that.
Well, yeah. As you see in the promo for the season that played at the end of this first episode,
Hmm.
where we get a glimpse of Lore.
Right.
He's let himself go a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to explain that though,
Right?
because we're right back to the same. I don't know, man. I like it's. I will take a lot. You can do explaining a lot, and I will take it. Like they could have just said. They could have made up something instead of all of that to kill Data off. They could have just did a thing of Data found a way that he built a body that aged. Like they built
Hmm. Hmm.
an android body that can age because he wanted, like he would change bodies. This is a new, but this is a different body of the original body he had. He got rid of that one, and now he's in. He made himself older, like he did in the last episode of All Good Things,
Hmm.
where he gave himself a beard. Imagine now you have technology where you just build another body. Him and Geordi built another body. That's how you bring Geordi back, right? In the first season, and just make it that he just, they were able to download him into a new body,
Uh-huh.
and he's older. That's all, an older body. He wanted an
Darrell,
older body.
why haven't they hired you?
I don't know. I don't know.
those all that stuff makes sense to me. So
Yeah, like why you don't have to go through all this descendants. He's Data's here. He's still here.
I see. See this is so much fun. We are two fans. We love the franchise. We love Star
Yes.
Trek, and yet we could poke holes at it. Poke at it a little bit.
Well, but
Totally out of love.
still love it though.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so we examine our love for the first episode of Star Trek Picard season 3.
Yes.
So okay, here's a brief synopsis. I think this was the synopsis of the episode on Paramount Plus. I forgot to check that. I pulled this from Memory Alpha. So it says here, after receiving a cryptic, urgent distress call from Dr. Beverly Crusher, spoilers, Admiral Jean-Luc Picard enlists help from generations old and new to embark on one final adventure, a daring mission that will change Starfleet and his old crew forever. Which is that last little bit there. That's really reaching for it. Change Starfleet forever, whatever that means. That's going to be interesting to see how that develops, if it develops.
Well, I think I think with some of the things they've introduced, I think you might believe it a little bit. Mm-hmm. Like you might believe it. So,
well, we'll get into this, but there's this thing,
Of course. Of course, he has to, my dog. Yes, I had Picard's dog. I adopted him.
Oh, we're totally missing number 1.
I know, you introduced the cool dog. You take everything from us. You introduced the cool dog, and then he's gone.
I guess because we get Will as number 1 back, that we don't need to see the dog anymore.
Or they realize we just don't have the time.
to do it. Yeah. That was, we're going to be jumping around a lot, I guess.
Yeah.
That was one of the things about season 1 that I absolutely adored, was that
Me
dog.
Too.
And that he named him number 1. I just thought that was wonderful.
Just didn't have time, I guess.
But that's okay, because we do get Riker back, number 1, the old number 1, and I'll just start with this. Darrell, I love Riker in the first 2 episodes that I've watched, and rewatching the first episode again to prepare for this. It's just to me, it's more like the Riker show than it is Picard.
Oh, I absolutely love Riker, and I what I love about it is he's a very animated actor. Like, not all actors do that anymore. They try to do everything with the facial expression, but he has a way of being able to move his hands in a way that you're so interested in the conversation when he talks to you.
Yeah. He just has a twinkle in his eye.
He does.
It's so endearing.
I met him in real life, and
whoa.
I got a chance for my birthday. One of my birthdays, JK had gotten me a pass, one of those special passes, because he was part of the con, and they had all of except for Patrick Stewart and William Shatner, of course, but they had they had Uhura, they had the one Beverly Crusher, they had Riker, they didn't have Troy, they didn't have Worf, and then they had some of the original crew along with the woman, beautiful woman that played Uhura. They had not Scotty. What was the young Chekhov? They had Chekhov there, and then a couple of people that had been in Star Trek over the years that they had in the green screen. So we got to go back, behind the curtain, and you got to chill with them and eat and all that kind of stuff. And when he came up to the table, because he was there's a comic he did called Mirror Mirror. No, this is before Mirror. This is the Doctor Who crossover one.
Oh, okay.
They did a Doctor Who crossover with Star Trek, and Riker was in it, and it was the Borg, and he used my likeness just to be one of the crew on the ship. What was the ship that Riker was on? The U.S. No. This is the one he was on when he was before he became to the Enterprise.
Oh,
the Potemkin.
Okay.
The U.S. Potemkin, and it's a panel of us playing jazz together.
Oh, how cool!
It was cool. But so he comes to the table because I guess his agent or whatever had told him, like, you're in a book and the artist that did this is here. And he went to visit and say hello to JK. And when I had my chance, like, this is right. I've been waiting for this for years, right? He introduces, oh, this is my friend, blah, 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 Trek fan as well. And then I go, we were friends. And I did it with my voice cracking. And he looked at me, and I could see the light go out of his eyes where he's like, okay, this is crazy fan. I might have to call security. He's not normal, right? He's one of them. He's one of the crazies that I've had to deal with over the years, probably. And it all went away, and I sat down in shame.
Oh no!
He still teases me to this day because he watched it. JK has witnessed that entire scene, and he's like, "That's the moment you scared Jonathan Frakes. You scared him. You absolutely scared him." And I did. I totally did. It was one of the best moments of my life, and one of the worst.
Oh.
I mean, I did get Nichelle Nichols did wink at me. I met her, and I felt like I felt like a star. She made you feel like a star. This is before she really, she started to get a little sicker. This is when she was able to go to cons as much as she was. I was so glad I was able to go. I always owe him for that, but I also owe him for letting me be a complete idiot in front of Riker like I did.
Oh, that's
I'm ashamed of myself.
Terrible. I have a Jonathan Frakes experience sort of myself. I was at Emerald City Comic Con one year, and he was there, and my wife and I came back to the hotel that's adjacent to where the con is.
Mm-hmm.
And when you walk in the main door, you walk down this hall, and there was this bar on the right-hand side, and that's where a lot of the Comic-Con guests would go after the con was over. And we were walking by, and I start freaking out, and I'm like, oh my god, Jonathan Frakes is at the bar, and he's not surrounded by a bajillion people, right?
This is your chance to ask him out. Play Star Trek with me, please. Could you please play Star Trek with me?
And so, my wife was, she's not into Star Trek. She and I are actually watching Star Trek Picard together because she does like Patrick Stewart. She does like the character of Picard, but she's never really been she's not like us. She's not like a Star Trek fan, right?
Mm-hmm.
But she's always been very supportive of my fandom stuff, comics and Star Trek and whatnot. And she's like,
oh, that's cool.
She's like, go buy him a drink. Right. And I'm like, oh my God, I could buy Jonathan Frakes, Commander Riker himself, a drink.
All right.
And then I didn't because I didn't want to be that fan.
Yeah. Or he turned you down and you don't want to do the walk back of shame.
And that, quite honestly, Darrell, that is exactly why I didn't do it, because I was afraid that he'd be like, no thanks, buddy, go away.
I know. It would have been so cool though if you were able to do it and he said, okay.
Yeah, right?
It would have been so cool.
And if in hindsight, now when I'm 10 years older, I'd probably do it now. And
now we're older, you don't care anymore.
Not as much, right? It's like they're people and they don't want to be bothered. Fine, no problem.
Yeah. I'm almost 50. I'm 49. Probably a couple more years, I'll be like, hey, Franks, remember when I scared you at the con? You want to hang out? You want to hang? No?
I could just totally imagine him going, yeah, sure, why not?
Exactly. And I'm like, because, I love you, man. Like, I want to be able to be like that. When him and Picard are sitting at that bar, don't you want to be there with them?
Oh my God, yes. Oh,
isn't that perfect?
We got it. We got to get to that part, but
yes.
Okay. So we talked about Riker, but so we got 7 of 9 returning. We've got Beverly Crusher, who opens the episode. We have a new character, Captain Shaw, which I can't wait to talk about him.
Oh, I love him. Yes.
Rafi is back, much to my chagrin.
Yes, I love her too. Even though I get what you mean, I get what you I get. They push the acceleration on emotion very much with her because she can do it.
Oh yeah,
but they do it too much.
Yeah. I'm not at all disparaging the actress. She's amazing. what she's doing with what she's given is amazing.
Right.
I just think from a character standpoint, it's like, what are they doing with this character and why? Why are they, but so I am still, even though I haven't enjoyed her in the first two seasons, I'm optimistic that we will get something better for that character in this season, given the role that she's been given to play in the story.
Yeah, I like a character a little dirty. So I like.
Oh yeah.
I like when they mix it in. So I like what she's gone through, but I do wish they had given her a little bit more context because she's new. Like we don't something with Picard. Like instead of showing everything, him already at the chateau just chilling, I would have liked to have seen some more scenes of her being his subordinate on the ship and watching her be, because you keep telling us how broken she is, but I want to see how cool she was before she, became the character who's broken.
Yeah.
And she kind of she's healing. I want to see how, like, you're supposed to be the best of the best to be working with Picard, right? This is the guy, right? So if he picks you to be his person, then show me how cool she is. That even though she has these flaws there, because everyone did on the Enterprise, they all had certain things that were flaws about them, but they all were great at what they did. And show me that more. And they didn't show that enough for her yet.
Agreed. Yeah. We have one of my favorite characters of the last two seasons. Laris returns in just one major scene, essentially.
She killed her husband, right, to be with Picard. She did it. There's no other way. She did.
Oh my God, you're trying to destroy my love of this character, and
I still love her for it. I mean, she's still wonderful. I'm like, Picard, I don't understand why you are not like professing your love for her, or when she tried to ask you out. I'm like,
oh my God,
this is when I was like, you like, this is the Picard that made me mad every time he turned down a wonderful woman,
right? Yeah,
that wanted to be with him, because he's done this. He's done this many times in TNG. He's always he's always been the I know you want to be with me, but I have no time for this. I have responsibilities to save. Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, like I said in the season 2 overview episode, and I was totally shipping those two together.
Yes.
And we get that at the very end, a tease of it, and then we get a little bit more here in this first episode. Yeah. And I'm afraid that I'm going to be extremely disappointed by the end of this season.
He's never going to meet her. That she's going to be sitting at that. I just, in my mind, I've already seen it. She's going to be waiting for him at that bar, and he's not going to show up. She's going to look at that door, and he's not going to be there because he died. Or something.
I was going to say that they'd better just kill him off then, because I'm totally invested in this relationship.
Me too, which means I'm not going to get it because I want it too much.
Yeah.
We're not going to get it.
Someone who did have a relationship, and it's a bad segue, but we get to see Geordi's daughter, Sydney.
Yes.
Which I'm looking forward to seeing more of her. And then another child. Yes. We get to see Ed Spaliers, the actor playing, he's identified at the end of the episode. And I guess spoilers, I guess, if you haven't watched Star Trek Picard season 3, episode 1. But he was identified apparently in the production information as Jack Crusher. So Beverly's son, and maybe somebody else's son. So I don't want to get too far ahead, obviously, because we're just talking about this first episode. But anyway, so we get another Crusher son. So that's that. So I just wanted to note some of the new characters that we're seeing here, and some returning characters. And so here we are. Looks like about 50 minutes in. Darrell, at this point, and
we're moving so fast. I mean, it's crazy.
So shall we just dive into the episode a little bit and just offer our thoughts? I don't have act summaries, but so we'll just talk about it generally, I guess. So just to start off, and because I'm gonna I in my notes I made so many notations of this. And so the teaser starts off with just text that says in the 25th century, which is very reminiscent of something else in Star Trek past, which is the opening of Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan.
Yes.
And so, okay, fine. Nice little callback. As a Star Trek fan, I appreciate that.
This is going heavy with the callbacks too.
Oh my God, it's callback. Yeah, it is. It is like callback city here.
Yes.
So what do you as a fan? What's your thoughts on that? What do you think about that? How did you react to that?
I loved it, but I was like, why this? I get why the show, the person who's the showrunner on this, he was on the show, but not as the showrunner previously. And the other person in charge, I guess he was I don't want to give you what you want, even though I know that's what you want person. I would do the same thing this guy's doing. He's like, look, I have the keys to the car. I am going to go 70 miles per hour. We have a Lamborghini. I'm not going to drive a Lamborghini 20 miles per hour.
Right.
We're going to go 80 and give you what you want, because these are the things we want, right? Like this. Why not? Why wouldn't you want what you want? All these little nitbits and stuff. And who doesn't love Wrath of Khan? And I do think that this is partly telling us that this is going to be a revenge story. We just don't know who wants the revenge and why.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think that this is we still don't know either. Even though we're ahead of the game, we still don't know this. But I do think that this is a revenge story. And I think that these are clues that this is a revenge story. We even have his son. I mean,
yeah.
Not his son. I mean, her, Beverly's son. I mean, we have her son in it. And I mean, scientists with her, with their children going through, the threat of something happening, because we get to see Beverly fight for her kid, right? This is like a big thing in the very beginning of the episode, right?
Yeah. Beverly Crusher was always a character I liked her. They never really did anything with her.
No.
I think that's one of the sins of the Next Generation run, is that they never really did anything with the female characters.
No, they didn't.
But here we get to see a completely new Beverly, because she is just, she's badass. She's packing.
Yeah.
She's killing these invaders who, we don't really. I mean, they're breaking into her ship,
right? But
we don't know what their intent is, other than they're dangerous, and she perceives them as life threatening. But as a doctor, she's just killing them right and left, which is okay, what the heck is going on here, right?
Yeah, we don't even get to see her child. She locks him in a room really quickly and then runs off to, protect him.
So as a teaser, that's like, wow, what they're just throwing us into the action. We see a character we haven't seen since her appearance on Nemesis, and she's. What has she gone through? What's been her experience? She
killed a person. Right? Because she had him incapacitated, and she's still.
Oh yes, that's right. I forgot about that part.
Yeah, this is not the Beverly we're used to.
That's right.
This is the Beverly that argued with putting nanites in the Borg or whatever, because they didn't want them to, even though they have murdered all these people, right? And she's like, it's wrong to to put that in him to. Even though it would wipe out the threat of the Borg, but so this is a different Beverly, man. What has happened to her in 20 years?
Yes. I that's one of the things I'm actually really looking forward to, is because we see her in that beginning, that teaser, and then we see her in later in the episode. We see her in a pod, a medical pod, I think it was, right?
Yeah,
because she gets injured quite severely in this firefight, and we don't get to see her until the second episode. So there's a lot of stuff, a lot of background information, or at least suggested that there's been some history there that needs to be addressed between Picard and Beverly, but we haven't gotten that yet. So I'm really looking forward to how that goes down. Then we come back from commercial into Act One, and what I loved about that coming into that first scene of Act One, Darrell, was we get to see again it's nostalgia, it's callback. We get to see this huge painting on Picard's wall of the Enterprise D. And do you recall, was that painting in previous seasons in his study?
I don't remember it being in. I don't like.
Either.
I really had, and I haven't had the time to go back to the first episode of the first season to look and see if it was. But I wonder. It feels like it's not, and this is another clue.
Okay.
That it may be whatever revenge thing that is going on. It has to do with the D. Something when they were on the D.
Yeah, which he called his favorite. So when he and Laris are talking about it, because they're packing things up because he's going to accompany her.
Yeah.
I forget the planet's name now, but
Talk 4.
Okay.
I think is it.
Yeah, and she's doing some sort of security thing for that, which I thought she was helping him on the vineyard, but she's doing this security thing.
Well, I guess we know. I mean, it's funny because before this, it makes sense though. She did do her background in espionage for the Romulans. It would make her qualified, but she was on the run from them, so it's like she was hiding here, and now I guess things are okay to the point where now she can go travel around and do things and doesn't have to worry about being hunted, I guess, now that they have with the threat of even though there were a bunch of Romulans that were infiltrated Starfleet and tried to take out, well, they murdered a bunch of people on all those workers on that moon, right?
Yep.
I guess that got worked out. I guess they were just fine.
Yeah, that's always been one of my complaints about the Picard, the series, is that all this stuff just kind of happens off screen.
Yeah,
and we're told about it. It's like, oh, okay, I guess that's fine.
There's a novel waiting to happen.
Sure, or a comic book miniseries or something.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Because something's missing here.
So, when he called the Enterprise D his favorite, because he mentions his stint as captain of the Stargazer, which was his first command.
Right.
But so I was curious. It's like, because we have the D and then we have the E that came in the movies, and I had to look it up because I'm a nerd, Star Trek nerd that way. So he spent 8 years, as far as I could tell, 8 years as captain of the D.
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, so how long was he on the E? And apparently, if my numbers are correct, he spent 9 years on the E before he was promoted to admiral in 2381. And so I'm like, okay, was those 8 years on the D because he had his Enterprise D family altogether, and on the E he'd lost Data and all that kind of stuff. So.
Well, I read the novels. I've been reading the novels in between, and part of it is he was Worf was his number one on the Enterprise, the last Enterprise that he commanded, and then when this whole thing came up with the Romulans and trying to help them, he was forced to make a decision. You can't do it as on the flagship of the Federation. He had to quit he had to leave that post, and Worf wound up becoming the captain. I don't know how long that lasted, but Worf wound up becoming the captain, and he had to fight for that because, of course, he had that thing in his record about command when he went to save his wife, Dax.
Oh,
and Cisco had to put that blip on his on his record, and which would probably hurt him in ever becoming a captain in the future. So he had to kind of fight for him in the novel to be able to take over as the captain of the Enterprise, and then from there he took command of the ship that would lead the fleet that was going to help the Romulans relocate from Romulus to another system. And that's where Ralphie came in. She was good at organizing and seeing, the patterns and stuff. And she came as his number one to help him to do this on this new ship that Geordi built to help them fit all the
that's right.
Romulans.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that's where that came from. So that's where he went. So when he left the ship, that's pretty much was the deal.
I mean, really, it's all about the next gen show, and so of course, it's got to be his favorite, right? But I just
right.
As a point of order, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and I wonder if it's because I'm looking for clues everywhere, right?
Oh yeah.
We don't know who the big bad is yet. Like we really don't know the connections yet, and I'm sitting there looking, and I'm like, it's got to be a reason why they put the D, right, like right in our faces, in the scene, and I wonder if it's because it's whatever mission that they did, one of those missions, one of those one-ups that they never finished, because there are so many stories they never finished, so many missions that once it was done, they shipped off and flew somewhere else and went and did something else and left things like they were, and we never know what happens afterwards. And I wonder if it's one of those things they're dealing with.
Speaking of that, I read somewhere, someone had posted, they either thought or hoped that it was a continuation of you mentioned this earlier about the
conspiracy.
Yeah, conspiracy with the those alien bugs, and that they never, they sent that message off and then they never came back to that, right? So I don't know if that's going to be it, but it's fun to speculate anyway.
It is. I mean, and they know that. I mean, that's why they're messing with us. They know we're sitting there looking at they know how crazy we are as fans. We're sitting there looking at every little bit.
Yeah.
In this, and that's part of the gag.
And we didn't even talk about all of the, I'll just say quote unquote Easter eggs in that teaser as the camera's panning through Beverly's ship, right? So we get to see a lot of things like that, right? So that's fine. I wanted to point out though, because Picard and Laris have this conversation that stems from them looking at the painting of the Enterprise D, right? And during that conversation, he says to Laris that he hopes he's not a man who needs a legacy, because she was talking about when you reach a certain point, and
well, he's over explaining. He's trying to overdo it because she's looking right through him, and that's the thing I love about Laris is that she listen. I'm reading through your bullshit. Okay, I know this stuff matters. Like, I know you're trying to be hip for your hot girlfriend, right? I know you don't want me to leave you, right? I know you're trying to, keep me, because he doesn't want to fail her again, right? They went to this whole thing of you can't, let the past go enough to have a future with someone, right? And she was pretty much going to let him go, right? You got to do what you got to do. She's one of those. I love her though. She's one of those. Like, this is how you are. It's fine. This is how you are. I just have to make a decision if I want to be with you or not. That's on me, right?
This is why she needs to be part of this new crew.
I would have loved it.
Oh my God,
I would have loved it. Like it would have. Yeah, it would have been so much they could have done with that. But she would have. Yeah, she would have over. If this is why she should have been in season 2. As part of the crew.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Exactly. Well, and I think though that 7 fills that role for Picard.
True. But romantic, having that romantic, like, I don't know, it's okay to have more than one great female character. And like, you don't have to have just like sometimes in TV, they're like, oh no, can't have too many of one. Like you gotta, split them up and, have them not. No, it's fine. She probably would have got along with 7, which would have been trouble.
Well, right? or
your girlfriend knows,
or they're at odds with each other for various,
throughout.
It's just so many possibilities.
Yes, but you could do both. You could argue, and at the same time, and then when like it could be how 7 was with B'Elanna.
Yeah,
they were not cool. They never became friends. Like all 7 seasons, they were never friends. B'Elanna did not like 7.
I was thinking of McCoy and Spock, that kind of a relationship. I could see Laris more Spock-like and 7 more curmudgeonly. McCoy.
Then it would be we are cool, but we like to fight.
Yes, exactly.
It's
Exactly.
just what it is. We
And,
like to fight.
and
Yeah.
I'm jumping ahead a little bit. I want to go
Mhm.
back and touch on something else, but real quick, Laris, when she and Picard are talking about this situation
Mhm.
with Beverly, she has the way the actress did this. You could see it on her face that she comes to that realization. Is like, oh, he has to go,
Yeah.
and she turns away for a second and says, "Damn it!" And that's the moment you were like, oh, she realizes what's going on, but she can't go with him, or
Yeah.
I mean, she's basically she's letting her new boyfriend go off and save or help his ex, right? And
Yeah.
it's just like, how much fun would it have been? Would that
Well,
have
he
been to
wouldn't
have
even
her there?
admit. I know, and the thing was, he wouldn't even admit that he loved her. It's like he tried to make it like, well, she stopped speaking to me 20 years ago. I don't care about her. Like you don't want to be in trouble with your lady, right? You're
Mm,
trying to, say all these things, but she's mature enough. This is not a young love here where everybody's in their 20s and no, she's grown. Like Laris is wise. She's grown. She killed her husband for you. So she's ready. She's like, listen, she's like, I know she mattered. Like, you need to go. She said it. She said the past matters. And she
yes.
said that's okay. Like
Yeah. Yes.
this is okay that she loved you.
Hmm.
Like this is okay that you loved her, right? This is not I'm not listen, I know I'm hot. I'm not worried about you leaving me for some other woman now. Come on. I know who I am.
Uh, she's such a breath of fresh air on
She
this show.
is. She is. She's like, I know who I am. I'm not worried about that. I think a part of her has that feeling that I'm not going to see him again alive.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
That's what I think I got from that. It's like,
Ah.
damn, this is it. But you don't want to say that
Yes.
to make it, like you don't want to say that. But I think a part of her knows you're not going to come back from this.
Hmm.
There's only so many adventures you can go on, and there's so many with him before you just don't come back.
Okay, so that's a great segue to go back to what I was. So he says he's not a man who needs a legacy. I want a new adventure, he says, and I thought, okay, so is this the theme of the season? It's
I think so.
old men, old men going off and
Yeah.
having one last hurrah, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
Riker even says basically the same thing. I think later in the episode.
Oh
So
yeah. Paramount Plus is based on that. That's why I watched like most of my shows are old men. Listen, when you get to halfway point to the 50s, right? And we ain't making it to 100. But anyway, we tell ourselves it's the halfway point just to make ourselves
yeah,
feel.
exactly.
When you get to our ages, you appreciate stories where people are thinking about, you know, they've had these adventures. Now it's time to, let's get one more in, right? Before we can't anymore. And you kind of do think about legacy and friendship and like you do hold on to your friends tighter now. I notice you feel that
Hmm.
way
Hmm.
as we get older. We contact each other a little bit more. We keep in touch a little bit better than we used to because we think we have all the time in the world to do that stuff, when we're younger. But now you start to realize sadly, some of our friends are passing away. We think about that too. Picard has had friends die, so he understands it. He's had the loss, and so this is kind of that story, right? This is kind of I'm trying not to think of it that way, but he can't help it. He's like, it is partly about legacy,
Hmm.
right? He always thought he had all the time in the world, and that's why he'd be like, I'm not going to worry about love. I got time for that, right? I'm not going to deal with commitment too much. Like I can't. I got to go out and I gotta beat up the next threat to the Federation or something. I have to stop that. But
Mm. Yeah,
but now it's different.
it's shades of Kirk,
Yeah, it
beginning in
is.
Star Trek 2.
Mhm.
He has that whole arc of getting older and what's his
A
place in the
Yeah,
universe,
yeah.
and
A
all that.
better
Yeah.
written story would have just had them just sitting at at a farm or somewhere just talking. That would have been a better movie. I didn't need all that other stuff. I just him and Kirk sitting there going, "These are the things I wish I had done." Is the
Mm.
things you wish you had done? Like, and you see Picard just having that conversation with him about stuff. Like, me and Beverly probably should have. worked things out and gotten together, right? Like I wanted those conversations in Generation, not,
Yeah.
riding horses and running through scaffolds. They didn't need all that.
Well, Shatner
But
did.
I guess he did, but this would have been better. This conversation would have been a lot better, though. It wouldn't.
Okay, so let's go to 10 forward. So we get to see 10 forward again. No Guinan though.
No, sadly.
Yeah, I would have. I think I might have appreciated her more having showed up in this season as opposed to last season.
Well, a better written season for is a better. You want Guinan in a better written season.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing.
Yeah. But we're celebrating Frontier Day. I don't know if that's a new thing for this series or if it's been mentioned before. But celebrating 250 years of Starfleet, Darrell. I thought that was kind of a neat thing.
Yeah, this was new. I don't remember seeing this being mentioned in any other show previous or movie.
Mm-hmm.
So
and there's a dig by the bartender because Guinan is selling the ships of the Federation, and there's a bunch of Enterprise D's unsold, I guess.
Oh,
and because what did she say about it? The fat ones?
She called them fat. She called them fat, and that there's nothing like a pretty bartender just pretty much telling you how old you are.
Yeah,
in the comment. Yeah,
and Riker, because Riker's at the bar to meet Picard, and just his reaction to that.
Yeah,
that's like galaxy class to you, young lady, or something like that.
Yeah, just step on me. Just step on my on my balls. You just crush everything about me that I love about my life. Back in the day, just stamp on it, and that's what she did. And look back at him like, problem.
Yeah, no respect from the young.
No respect for them. No. Not at all.
I love that, and like I said, the conversation between Riker and Picard in this scene is I love Will Riker. It's so much fun.
Yeah, this was missing.
But Beverly in her message to Picard that we saw earlier, tell no one, don't trust Starfleet, basically, right? Mm-hmm. And what does Picard do? He goes and tells Starfleet. I mean, literally tells Will Riker, who is still a captain in Starfleet.
Right. But this is right. Like, there's no way she didn't think, like this. They're too connected, and Riker will break rules. They've all broke rules for each other, so she knows if there's some stuff going on, and he has to not tell Starfleet, he won't.
Yep. He's I'm sure we'll talk about the stuff on the Titan here in just a minute, but exactly. I just thought it was funny, Don't do this, and then he does it.
Of course. Yeah, don't tell your wife, and then what does he do? He tells his wife or lady. First thing he does, he tells her. He tells a Romulan at that, right?
Right.
Who expects that to be the case?
A former Romulan intelligence officer.
Yeah, it doesn't get any more deeper than that, right? Hilarious.
We do have a scene with Rafi. But the notable thing, two notable things about this for me, and maybe you'll have some other highlights here, but there is a quick mention of her and Seven's relationship that we got introduced to at the end, near the end of season 2. Apparently, that's gone the wayside, which is I'm perfectly fine with. And then the other thing that is that Rafi is now in Starfleet intelligence.
Yeah, which I had knew that. I kind of got a sense that was the case, and they wanted us to think that she was back to doing drugs again.
Mm-hmm.
But I figured they're trying to feign us out, and and she's actually working for intelligence. I don't know. See, that's the thing when you do this. Like, I want inclusion. Like, I'm good with them being together, and I think what the people that do have issues with that are the people that are like, okay, if you're going, don't tell me they're together. Show me a relationship building with them through the story, and they didn't do it. They just threw it out there, and then they kind of felt like they patted themselves on the back, like, look how weird, like we're so progressive. It's like, no, that's not what people want when they say being progressive. That's not That's not the case.
Yeah.
There's just been they've still to this day, like season 2, we really didn't get to see them bond or, kind of become a couple or, relationship building with them. We got none of that. We just got everything with them has always been they can't work it out. Right. It's not good.
And I obviously I have no objection whatsoever to them being a couple. It's from a story and character standpoint.
Yeah, it's not done well.
Yeah.
It's not done well.
So, okay. And then now we go into Act 2 and we see the Titan A. And I don't know how you felt about it, Darrell, but I think that's a fine looking starship.
Oh, that's a hot starship.
Right?
I used to read the Titan book, and they did take a lot of the design from the novels.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's not in canon anymore per se, but there was a Titan book that they did do a in between story with the Titan, where it's the new continuity of the shows, and they show the Titan looks like the novels a lot more. They did couple of things and changed a couple of things here and there, but for the most part, it looks like how the Titan looks in the novels.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and Riker even calls it the Neo Constitution class, which another direct callback. But regardless, it looks vaguely like the Enterprise that we are familiar with, and so
they were mini Enterprise. That was basically the design for the Titan. It's like a mini Enterprise.
So I like I said, I thought it was a good looking ship. It might even now be my third favorite after the Enterprise refit from the motion picture and the Enterprise C, which is my second favorite starship design. So we'll see how this ship fares.
Yeah, Constitution 3 class.
Yeah. I love
it's getting destroyed. There's no way. You saw how pretty it looked, right? You saw what he said. There's no way. Every time that has happened in Star Trek, when they talk about how pretty the ship is and what it looks like, terrible things happen, right? We got the Enterprise E. What happened in that thing? That thing got tore up left and right by the Borg in First Contact.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, pretty much all the Enterprises. There's not been.
Yes, they don't fare well.
No, they don't.
Not at all.
No, they don't. We get another callback with the bosun's whistle when Riker and Picard come on board to the Titan.
Nice. Loved
it. The Star Trek 2 and 6, we saw the same kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Riker meets Seven for the first time, although she has to be referred to as Commander Hansen.
Yes.
Per her captain. So that was interesting. So they're walking through, doing the inspection. That's the ruse for them to get on the Titan and try and get to Beverly. And then we see Picard adjust a crew member's badge. But then Darrell, they're looking for things, right?
Right.
Riker stops and looks at this one guy, and it lingers on him for a second.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, that has to mean something, right?
I know, right?
Or is that a red herring?
Who is he? Or is he some, relative or writer or someone who, they were nice enough to let him be on the show.
Is he somebody? Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I was looking to see if it was mentioned, and that's another reason why I watch Ready Room, because they give you little things. They tell you little Easter eggs of the episode that you just watched. And I didn't see anything on this, so I'm like, all right, maybe it's nothing. Maybe I have to sit back and look at something, read something else, or look it up, or maybe mention it another time.
We get another kind of callback. We're introduced to, I mentioned her before, Ensign LaForge.
Mm-hmm.
Riker, I thought was kind of mean to her, reminding everybody on the bridge that she had the nickname in
what is up
Academy?
With Riker knowing all females? Even now? Are you married, man? You know a lot about her really quickly. And I'm like, what do you check out all the cadets when they're and look them up and see what's going on?
Well, considering what a passing line in the bar with Picard, Picard apologizes to Riker for pulling him away from his family, and Riker says, what was it? That Deanna and her and their daughter are probably happier that he's not there or something like that, right?
Yeah, there's something with that.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Boy.
yeah.
I'm not looking forward to when Deanna shows up and
No,
ruining my love of those two, because that was, their appearance in season 1 in that one episode, I forget the name of it, was the highlight of the season for me.
Yeah.
So
it also makes me think, do you have a nubbin in your neck or something? Like, why all of a sudden they don't want to be around you? Because remember, she would sense it if there was something off with you. Like, why are you not with your
Darrell,
family?
you just blew my mind, because there's a teaser scene that I've seen with Riker, and he tells Picard, what is it? This is the end of our journey, my friend, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. If they make him into the villain, I'm done, Darrell. No more Star Trek ever.
Hey, the thing they said when they said don't trust Starfleet made me think there's somebody, something, a race or something that can either inhabit a body, or they can make themselves appear to be who they aren't, right? Like, that's the thing we look for when they say don't trust Starfleet, because they said that in Conspiracy, right? Don't trust Starfleet.
Mm-hmm.
That's what his friend told him.
You are going to I'm gonna be very impressed with you, and I'm gonna be very mad at you if you are correct about this.
I trust no one. I'm telling you, once you say that thing, I'm like, God. Oh man, everybody that acts a little off, I'm like, something's up. And we had that guy who was watching. Remember, the one that put
in the bar,
the toy. He put one of the Enterprise figures in the water, drowned it.
Yeah.
It even made me think of that. Like, wait, is there an episode where they had a water planet or something? Like, if I'm missing,
right.
Like,
yeah.
Maybe everything. I'm listen, my brain, after every episode, my nose is bleeding. My brain is just like melting from trying to figure out every little thing before the next episode.
Yeah. Well, so I said, that we get a callback with Ensign LaForge because we saw another crew member's daughter before at the helm, but in this case, it was in Star Trek Generations for the Enterprise B. We get Sulu's daughter,
right?
So again, how much are they of these callbacks are they going to do?
We probably only got like a couple of snippets from a bucket, and I'm thinking they're gonna just pour these Easter eggs all over these episodes as it goes.
And then eventually we get, after the Titan gets underway, we get to meet Captain Shaw, whom Seven when talking about him to Riker and Picard. Darrell, what did she say exactly? You're not going to be impressed, or something along those lines. I forget.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Either way, she basically said he's going to be a dick.
Yeah, and oh my God. They do
any
such a
character
great
in a movie eating steak. When you see him eating steak, he's going to be a dick. It's a given. It's already a given. It's going to happen.
What, and is it blue, or is blue or green steak at that?
It was like a green. It was like a green. Like, I think the seasoning. It had that greenish seasoning on it or whatever.
Yeah. But so we see exactly. It opens up with him eating by himself.
Yep.
Already started because they were supposed to have dinner together, and he's eating, he's drinking his wine, he's listening to some classical music. I don't remember now.
Frédéric Chopin.
Okay.
Chopin or Chompin or whatever you call it.
Yeah. And boy, what a Captain Styles-esque character we get with him.
Oh, I'm big dogging you like that when you're eating already. When you're eating, and steak at that, right? I'm a big dog you. Like, I'm purposely going to big dog you throughout this whole thing. Like,
yeah. What did he say when they came in? And Seven introduces them. Picard apologizes. Are we late? And he's like, oh no, your
reputation, I think, is so big it got here before you did. Yeah,
that was awesome.
Oh my God, Shaw is. We need this. This is that guy. Remember the one who was on the captain of the Excelsior when they stole the Enterprise?
Yeah, Captain Styles.
Captain Styles. This is Captain Styles.
Oh yeah,
turned up to 12. Right? Like, I can see him eating a steak as well, saying, you people, your ships are outdated. Like, just talking badly about the Enterprise. Like, we're better than you. and all that. I could see it.
Yeah,
I could see it.
He's the master of the backhanded compliment.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, but wow, as much as we are primed to not like him,
yeah, I do. I do.
There is something about this character, and I think mostly, from a franchise standpoint, our heroes, our captains are usually, in Star Trek, they're usually the hero or they're crazy, right?
Right.
And they have to be stopped. But I think he's something a little different, and I like that. I like that we don't, all starship captains are not created from the same mold.
And I also, this is what I wanted after the Best of Both Worlds. This is what I wanted to see. We never got to see, like, how are you treating Picard this way when he almost destroyed the entire Earth, right? Like, he led the Borg, and even though he did it against his will, of course, but just imagine, right? You learn that, and they had to know this, like Earth, everybody in the Federation would have to know this, that he was used to not only kill all those people, like how Sisko, we got a little bit of it from Sisko, and I was like, I want this from other people. Like, sometimes I would have loved if we have gotten, like, he goes down to a planet and they're like, oh, we don't F with you.
Yeah.
We know what you did. Like, we'll talk to Riker, but we're not talking to you. Like, because we know what you did. Like, he should have to go through some of that.
Yeah.
You can't tell me everybody thinks, forgets about it. Like, it's all right.
Well,
we almost died, but it's fine.
Yeah. Right? I mean, he even says, 'cause they have an exchange.
Yeah.
He pokes some fun at them right at the beginning. Puts them in their place because they're trying to get him to alter his course, go in the opposite direction so they can go find Beverly, right? And he's like, Riker, you're a jazz guy, and I can't stand that. I erased all of your music from the databanks just to prove how much I don't like you. But then he makes that comment about, former Borg.
Mm-hmm.
And he's talking about Picard, right?
Yeah.
And yet his first officer is former Borg. Well, they don't really address that in that scene, but it's just like, wow, yeah, this guy he's got a problem.
Oh, he's been treating her like crap the entire time. Yeah. I'm sure, right?
Well, because Seven even talks about that, I think, in the later scene where the crap she has to put up with, to further her career, but she's looking for something more than just a career in Starfleet, right? And she's an
overachiever. She's an overachiever, right? She's super smart, right? She remembers all those those different worlds that they took, right? She remembers sciences and stuff. She knows, she forgets more than people would know in a lifetime, 12 lifetimes, right? And so, I'm sure Admiral Janeway was like, look, you're better than this dude, right? He's just, like, sometimes you got to deal with people like this, right? You got to have an asshole boss sometimes.
I was gonna say, this is Janeway's way of teaching Seven yet another lesson, right?
Yeah. Like, you deal with this guy, and then you're gonna get promoted over this guy eventually, right? You just got to put in your little bit of time, and then you're gonna move up the ladder. That's how it's gonna be. But first, you got to get the shit job, right? You got to deal with this.
You got to prove yourself as a former Borg.
Right.
Who's now in Starfleet. Right. Yeah.
That you could follow the rules. And I'm sure they, on purpose, because admirals do this, I'm sure they were like, we won't put her on any ship until we put her on this one, knowing that this guy doesn't like Borg, to kind of be like, I want to know if she can handle it, if she could take it. And then she'll get something else.
In my headcanon, Janeway did that on purpose.
I wouldn't be surprised.
It wasn't some other admiral. It was Janeway purposefully sticking her with, because she knew that guy would treat her this way.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh my God!
If Janeway didn't do it, because she wants steel. She knows she's steel. She just needs to. But she can sometimes be like, I know better than you. She did that for 7 seasons. Like, I mean, not 7. She got in there about what, season 4?
4, yeah, I think so.
So for those rest of those 3 seasons, she basically was like always telling. That's why Balana was like, I don't like her. She got one more time to tell me how to do my job before I'm gonna knock her in the face. Like she said that one time in a confrontation. She's like, "Listen, I don't like you like that. Like, right? Like, don't come in here trying to tell me how to do my job. I don't care how much you know." And so, yeah, I get it. I get
Yeah.
it. She has to learn that. She has to learn humility.
I cannot wait to see how this situation between Picard, Riker, Seven, and Shaw works out in the overall sense of I kind of.
Well, what's the deal we get if he doesn't die? Let's say if he doesn't die, right? What usually happens, right? The Fast and Furious rule is a rule that's been happening in TV and movies for years before Fast and Furious were ever thought of. First, we hate you. Then we change you, right? You don't like us. We're the heroes everyone loves. You hate us, right? We get into a terrible situation. You realize why we're so great. And then you become friends with us.
Yeah.
And now you break rules. That's usually the case.
Yep. I fully expect that. But I wonder, he's got to make a sacrifice, right? Or,
yes.
There's going to be sacrifices, and I think he's going to be one of them. Yeah.
Has to. Like I don't. Either he kills himself in trying to defend Seven or whatever. She's about to be killed or something. Something like that. It has to. Like, there's no way. Like, after they become, they're friends, that's when he's dead, right? After he learns that he's being an asshole and that, Seven's a good person and she's a great ally to have, he's gonna bite it. Like, somebody's gonna just shoot him in the back or something. Or
I was gonna say they're gonna Kirk him.
Yeah, they're gonna Kirk him somehow. He's gonna look at her, hold her hand, and be like, "I'm sorry," and then just dies or something.
We do get a scene here at the end of Act 2 with Rafi and having this conversation with her handler, and I
knew then.
Did you?
I knew then from the wording.
Okay.
I'm like, I'm not trying to spoil, but the first thing I thought when I saw the wording, I'm like, that is Worf speak.
Oh.
He's the only one I know that speaks like that.
I'm impressed because I think it was maybe listening to the Ready Room episode, or I can't remember now, but somebody said that there were clues in that the little messages, and I couldn't remember them at that point. And so when I rewatched the episode, I intently read each of those messages, and then when it got to "You are a warrior," like, oh well, duh, I should have caught that.
You know what? It felt like he was talking to Major Kira, like, because Kira could be that way in terms of there's something happening and she can get like angry about something and confront him. And but what pisses people off with Worf is that he will answer you in such a deadpan way, even when it's something that it's serious. It's something serious, and it's something serious to the person talking to him. And even when it's his friends, right? Even when it's his friends, he will still be that same. Sometimes he just doesn't get it, which is why I always loved how Dax would be like,
"Oh yeah,
look, like you gotta cut that crap out right now. Like, you are really." Or when Cisco is with him, because Cisco is like, I'm not taking your crap. Like, like he was kind of scared of Cisco a little bit. Like, Cisco did not care about, that you're big bad Worf. He'd pretty much be like, if I tell you to do something, you're gonna do it. And if I think you're being an idiot, I'm going to tell you you're being an idiot. And that's it. Like Picard would, right? Like, it's pretty much, there's a few that could really tell him about himself.
Oh, yeah.
And they were the few. And the way she kept yelling at him and he kept answering in those I could hear him saying those things in just a deadpan way.
Yeah.
I'm that's got to be Worf.
I can't wait for us to talk about the next episode then.
Yes.
Oh yeah. And oh man. So a couple thoughts just real quick. Based on what you just said, I could totally see a parallel between Laris and Picard and Dax and Worf in terms of their relationships.
Yep.
And that scene. What is it? I think it was in First Contact, where Picard is basically calls Worf a coward.
Yeah.
And Worf is like, if you were any other man, I would kill you where you stand. That's one of the greatest Worf moments ever.
What he should have said was, if you were any other man besides you, Cisco, and then there were other women, Dax.
Yep, that's true.
Kira, like, all right. After that, it's Polanski. She got away with it too back then.
Oh, that's right.
That,
yeah.
Yeah, I always have this argument with people about the Polanski. I'm like, Polanski and Worf had a fling.
Oh, okay.
She pretty much ate poison daily so that she could build a tolerance just so she could have dinner with him. Do you remember that episode?
Yeah, that's right.
You're not doing that just for a regular friend.
Oh, the subtext you pull out, Darrell. That's just amazing.
I've seen it too many times because I'm looking at it. I'm like, huh. Like after they had that episode where she confronted him about his ways, and then there'd be another couple episodes where she'd be talking to him about tradition and and then when she did that whole thing of, I ate this whole thing so I could prepare myself to be able to eat this ceremonial meal, and I'm sitting there going, huh. And she's an older woman and she's been on the frontier. Remember they mentioned that?
Mm-hmm.
She's not shy. She's also a strong woman who's like, I've done things. I've been out there in these streets. I hung with Riker's father, and he's worse than Riker is in terms of treating women. Like, I tamed that dude. Like, he wanted to marry me.
Imagine if they had done this story instead of Crusher, they have Pulaski, and the whole 20-year thing would make a lot more sense, perhaps.
True.
Oh, wow. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah. I know they did it. I know people always tell me I'm wrong, but I'm telling you, they had a fling.
That's amazing.
I love it.
Okay, we go into Act 3 and we get this, again, a wonderful Picard Riker scene.
Yes.
In the dinner scene, Shaw says, I hope you find your accommodations okay, because in the short notice, this is all we could have. And they're sharing, what would be a lower decks level.
Oh, for sure. You knew it was coming as soon as he said it.
Bunk beds, right?
Yeah.
And they're just talking about, Picard's like, oh, this is so embarrassing. And Riker's like, he says something, it reminds him of his cadet days or whatever.
Except having to pee so much.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. So I'm like, I love old man Riker and Picard. This is so great.
Yeah. And it's true, too, when you got to get on a bunk bed. You ever slept on one of those things at her age just now?
Oh, God, I would avoid it like the plague.
Rough.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. I took a nap on one of those things, but man, getting up to have to pee so many times, rough.
Well, considering Riker's girth now,
right?
I know to him, he was very kind to let his former commanding officer sleep on the bottom. But I could just imagine the creaky knees and whatnot that his back and all that, trying to get up on that top bunk.
I know, but Riker's a man of class,
yes.
And of course he offered it to his older brother.
Yeah, they in that scene they talk again about Beverly, and I think this is where Riker's like, it's been 20 years.
Yeah, she ghosted everybody.
Everybody, yes.
Yeah,
and the thing I when I was rewatching this, I was like, why? In 20 years, now we don't know the backstory yet between what happened with Picard and Beverly, and maybe we're making an assumption that things did not end well, but still 20 years that you don't try to reach out, you don't try to make amends. That seems weird. So
kinda,
I'll put that on hold for now, and we'll see how.
I know. I had a hard time being like, why did he not try to hook up with Crusher after his, exile? He exiled himself from Starfleet. I'm like, why would he not? Me and JK got into we debates with this, and he made a point, and I had to kind of admit it. He kind of said, Crusher, think about how 20 years passes. Like Crusher was kind of his. It's when you go from an old job and you retire and go to a new job or whatever. It's like over 20 years is a kind of a long time. And if you kind of start to think about it because he kept in contact with Riker, right? He probably kept in contact with Geordi a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not so. Maybe a little bit with Worf, but Worf is bad with keeping in contact with people too. But if you didn't keep in contact with it, and I'm assuming that they were exes that went, they tried to get together at least once because of the last episode of the show. How it's going to be in the future, you kind of assume some of that stuff kind of happened.
Well,
right?
at the beginning of the episode, when he was talking with Laris, she says you were romantic with each other, right? And
Attempted.
He's like, well,
he said attempted. She
was
said
it attempted
you
or
were
was
lovers. He said attempted.
Okay.
He made a point of saying it, but he was still trying to downplay their relationship.
Yeah, I totally think they did.
But he made a point of saying, you said you were lovers, right? And he said attempted to be. And not meaning that they probably tried to have a relationship and it didn't work out. But that again goes into that episode with they said that they had broken up many times in the future.
Yeah.
Because there's always something with them. So I could, I'm like, all right, maybe, I guess. It has happened in relationships over the years. You just stop, it just stopped.
Yeah. Well, speaking of relationships, this is we get a scene here where Seven calls them from their lack of slumber in the bunk scene to another place on the ship, and Seven just goes, asks for, does the Starfleet thing and asks for permission to speak freely first. And then as soon as Picard gives it, she just lets into him. And Riker's like, hey, you can't do that. And
yes, you can.
And,
I would have did the same thing. Listen, we were homies, man.
Well, yeah.
Imagine if Peter is sitting here right now and Peter's, is going to do a scam, right? And you're the second in command. Why are you not asking me to help you out? Like, why would you think I wouldn't help you?
Right.
What is wrong with you?
Her what she says specifically is, this is how I talk to a friend. And
yes,
that whole, when Seven first showed up in Picard, I was like, oh, they're just, they're bringing back a fan favorite character and whatever. But out of most of the characters on Picard, the new characters to the next gen type people, right? Mm-hmm. She has developed into something that I find very fascinating. Specifically her relationship with Picard. And while we have to take some of this on faith because we
never got to see it.
We don't really see it, right?
No.
But I appreciate that. We can infer that maybe there's been some other communications between season 2 and season 3.
Yeah, they share a trauma. I mean,
they've had that shared experience.
Yeah.
So I love that. And, 'cause she has a very different and unique relationship with Jean-Luc than anybody else from the next gen cast.
They were both picked by the Queen, by the Borg Queen.
Oh, yeah.
And manipulated by the Borg Queen. Mm-hmm. Like, they would both share that, and they would share the guilt. They've both killed many people as the Borg. They were forced to do this. And that's a guilt that we never really, I wish we got more of that.
I was just going to say, if we had that, even just a quick conversation of that in particular, that would have made this scene even more powerful to me.
Yes. Yeah. I wish we had gotten that.
But so what we find out in that scene, after Picard and Riker confide in Seven, she had already decided to help them out because she after Captain Shaw went to bed, she told, and I don't know how this works, and why the bridge crew is following Seven's orders like this, other than, she's second in command and Shaw just seems to be, an absent captain in some ways. I don't know, but she's already told them to take them to the Ryton system or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So they're there. She's taken them there already on faith. Yeah. And I found that very cool.
Of course, she's part of the gang. That's why she was so mad. She's like, why did you think I wouldn't do it? Like, I don't even like this dude. Like, this guy's a jerk to me. You think I wouldn't have done this for you? I did it because not only that we're friends, I just wanted to stick it to this guy. Like, I don't think anybody in the crew likes him.
Oh
He's
no.
he's that boss. He's that boss that when he comes in the room, you start rolling your eyes because you got to deal with him.
Yeah, I totally buy, with very little evidence, but I totally buy that the bridge crew have more loyalty towards her
Yeah,
than they do
because
their
she
own
does the
captain.
work.
Yeah.
He's a lazy guy. I love it. He's the captain. That's
Well,
like, I don't want to do all that work.
do you think?
I'm not
Well,
doing that.
do you think he's lazy, or just that his management style is just just so atrocious? But he's efficient, because he talks
Yeah, he's
about,
efficient. His
was it?
management style is you do it.
Well, yes.
I'm in charge. You do it.
Well, it's called delegation.
Yeah, sure. But he's not going to come behind you. Like, he's not the guy that's going to come up behind you and check it. He just wants to know if it's done.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
He's a captain that doesn't like people. You don't like people?
Well, Jean-Luc didn't like kids, so
No. And he doesn't like anybody. He really doesn't like people. He just does his job,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
He's like, if you ask me to get you from here to there, usually these missions are take a delegate from here to there, right? Go here, pick up supplies, take it to that place over there. All the boring stuff, we don't get to see that on the Enterprise, even though they finish those missions when we get to see the episode, right? When it starts an episode. No, this is the guy. All these other ships, they get boring duty.
Yeah.
They don't do they're not shooting, trying to fight for their lives every episode of every mission. They're not doing that. They're doing regular stuff.
So do you think that Shaw is jealous of Picard and Riker and other captains like that? Or is it just that, these guys, they're always making things more difficult for people like me?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think
Yeah.
these guys were rewarded for messing things up. Like, right? Like, if you were to think about it on paper and you'd be like, why are the people that always break rules getting promoted?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
that would burn me too.
It would burn you, right? But we don't know, because you don't know Picard. He hasn't been on the ship with them. He hasn't, fought for their lives together like his crew has, right? He's not going to think of it. That's why I like it. I wish we got to see more Federation citizens interact with them, and some of them not be so starstruck.
Right. Yeah.
With Picard. That's what I wish we had seen in season 1 and 2, a little bit more of that, but we never really got to see that. And so you only see like other you get to see other Federation, other people working in Starfleet. And so of course they look up to him in Starfleet, right? But what about everybody else? Like,
right.
If other people that are captains, like, why am I looking up to these dudes? Like, he almost destroyed the whole Federation, and Riker's broken more rules than I could count on both hands, right? Like, being a renegade captain at one time or another. I'm sure he's read the mission logs for other, once he got the command of the Titan after Riker, I'm sure he's read other, missions that Riker's been on. And on paper, Riker doesn't always look like the greatest person.
Oh yeah. On paper, these guys you don't want them in your organization.
No, you don't. No. Because every time you're somewhere, someone dies. Every time you've had a situation where they've had to go and be involved with another Starfleet ship, that ship blows up, right? How many Galaxy classes ships blew up? They had to either destroy, or they died of a virus, or all of it. And in your head, when you read it on paper, you're like, you couldn't save them? Why is it you always come back, but no one else comes back? Right? You're like, something's going on with that. And why are these admirals always letting them go, letting them get away with stuff? They just went to the Briar Patch, and all we know is that one of the admirals just got killed, right? And they broke rules to go back to the Briar Patch, because remember, they were told no ship is to go over there.
Right.
And they went. Not only did they go, they came back, and they were patted on the back for it.
Yep.
You would hate them.
Because they saved the Federation from this existential crisis.
Right. But that's what we know. But to them, it's like another time where they get away with murder.
Yeah.
Literally.
Well, speaking of murder,
Yeah.
we finally understand why Rafi is a part of this, and it does call back to her first appearance in the episode where there's something going on, and the Red Lady clue that she gets, and she uses 25th century Google to search for the Red Lady, and she finally figures out that it's the Red Lady is a statue of Rachel Garrett, the captain of the Enterprise C.
Wow.
At what was it? District 7. What is that? Where's my notes here? Something about it's Starfleet recruitment. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I'm bridging Act 3 and Act 4 here. So
that's fine because it blended that so quickly.
Yeah. So we get that, and it turns out that what she's after is this quantum tunneling tech that was stolen, because we get told that at least twice in the episode.
Yes.
Just in case we don't remember. And what happens is the recruitment set, because she figures out that it's that she goes there, can't contact anybody, and then suddenly that whole recruitment center essentially is beamed out of its where it's planted in the ground and starts to crumble, and then we see another opening nearby, and it just dumps all of that building and whatnot.
It looked great.
It was amazing. And there was, when I watched it the second time, I happened to spy a building that's on the left of the screen. And when you see that shimmering effect of the quantum tunnel, that essentially the transporter effect, you could see it reflected in the windows of that building, Darrell. I don't know if you noticed that. I love when they do things
amazing.
Like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing.
So we get to see this. We still don't know what the connection is between that and what's going on with Picard, and what the ship that shows up at the end we'll talk about. But it has to be connected in some way, right? But how devastating is this? Rafi's already on the edge, and she sees this. She's trying to prevent this, and she's failed again. She's failed again in her mission, and so that part of her character, her development, show me more of that kind of stuff instead of telling me.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Like, that's when you put the you put the gas on, you just burn it and let her do her thing, like the emotional stuff. Like, yes, but don't use it all the time. Don't let her be emotional just to ask for a glass of water or stuff. Like, I don't. That's the thing that's like, stop doing that with her just because she's great at it.
Yeah.
Like, just let her be at 10 when she needs to be at 10. Don't leave her at 10 all the time.
Right. Yeah, and how the actress, that reaction when she sees the building being dropped on the rest of the city there, that was a fine bit of acting, I thought.
Yes, I expect it. This is when I expect her to feel how she feels and be pissed at all of this.
Okay, so Darrell, this is where my my conspiracy brain kicks in, because or my clue seeking brain, I don't know what, but so she mentions it's District 7. This is where the recruitment center is, right? Which there's a more famous District 7. In fact, I had to look it up because it rang a bell, but I couldn't remember. So that's in the Hunger Games. I don't know if that's
I do remember that.
If that's some sort of callback or what, or just a coincidence. But then,
I don't know.
But think District 7, Gary 7, Galileo 7, 7 of 9. What is with 7?
I can't, if I say there's a pattern, right? And what is she? What is her whole thing? She is great with finding the pattern in things. We don't have Data anymore, right? Because Data used to be the one who could look at a lot of information and then find, because they've used him in other episodes where they've found things, the pattern. Actually, it was a conspiracy when they looked at certain things and they were like,
oh yeah.
Yeah, it is. They did it subtly, right? They were moving ships in certain places subtly. But if you're someone that can look at all that information and see into that and read the pattern, and figure it out, not many people can do that. And she's a person, a human that can do that. So it might not be a mistake that we have her being in and out in Starfleet, like being part of this investigation, because they could have just had her just be on the ship still, right? But
Right.
instead, she's in this investigation. So there's something. There's got to be something there that she's supposed to read the pattern for this.
I did also briefly think, okay, what, the movie Star Trek 7, which is Star Trek Generations. So is there a clue there as far as what's going on here? But we'll see. I'm probably way off on that one.
I don't know. We don't know that. We got plenty of more episodes to come where that could be proven right.
Yeah.
For all we know.
I'll be impressed as hell with myself if somehow the number 7 plays into
exactly right. Like what?
I won't hold my breath, but
I know, but it'd be fun if it was. All right, like 7. What? It's 7. That's the number. Oh shoot.
We go back to Will and Jean-Luc because they've commandeered a shuttle and gone to the nebula in the Righton system because there's a ship out there, and of course it's Beverly's ship.
Yeah, of course.
They dock and they don't know what they're going into. They got their phasers ready, and I love that scene between them where Picard's like shaking his hand. He's like, the adrenaline's kicking in, and Riker's like, well, I got bad knees and your arthritis, and as long as we don't have to shoot anything, we'll be fine.
Well, remember, there's a point where Riker sounds excited, and Picard goes, "Are you enjoying this?" And he goes, "Of course not."
Oh, hell, he is.
He's having a blast.
I love that. I
know. I'm also looking like, wait, does that mean you're not a nubbin? I don't know, because they weren't able to be excited.
That's true. Yeah.
When they were taking over. So I'm going back and forth. That's what I love. I'm going back and forth as the episode goes. I'm like, maybe not. I don't know.
They get on the ship, and I love that Picard tells Riker that he made Beverly a mixtape.
I know, right?
With the music, that just seems so out of character for Picard, but I love it.
I'm like, I know, I like it, but I'm also like, I hate that you can charm all these women and then you don't want to be with them, right, yeah. And you just, oh my God, wasted all this charm. It just drives me nuts.
And then we finally are introduced to Ed Speleer's character, Beverly's son.
Yes.
Who has, curiously, even though he hasn't been around a certain person for 20 years, an English accent.
I know. When he had the English accent, I'm like Riker. Riker looked at him like, what? Did you hear what he just said? Like, he just keeps looking at, like, it's a noticeable thing where he just keeps staring at Picard, and Picard he won't make eye contact with Riker because he knows what Riker's about to say.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I know. Don't we get a lot of that in the next episode?
Yes,
right?
It keeps continuing. It starts here and it just keeps going into the next episode, and it's like he just will not look at Riker.
So Darrell, this is the point. I'm watching this episode with my wife, and this is where because I spent all of last season basically rolling my eyes every episode. This is where she rolled her eyes, and she's like, "Really, Picard's son? They're doing that?"
Yes. It was in the novels as well.
Like, really?
I will tell you this. In the novels that are not canon anymore.
Oh, okay.
He stayed on the Enterprise as captain, and then him and Crusher got married, and she gave birth to a son.
Mm.
So this also made me think, it's in the novels. I mean, you could play with this. It's in the novels. I mean,
what'd you think of that? The ship that shows up at the end. I mean, that's an imposing ship. That's like
all I know
giant
is when
spider
I saw
reaching out towards you.
I see pieces of other ships.
Oh yeah,
and which makes me think this has got to be something from a previous.
Well, okay,
it still makes me think it's something from a previous episode.
So this ship now not perfectly well, but it reminded me of the Scimitar from Nemesis.
Well, not only did it remind you of that from the look, but they used the music. I mean, the theme music is pretty much close to the Nemesis music. If you go back and listen to the Nemesis music when that ship is shown. And it's the same type of music. Also, at the bottom of it, it looks like the Enterprise D. Have you noticed that that bottom part with the eye is a lot like the Enterprise D?
I had not noticed this.
Yes, I stared. I've been staring at it. I've been
Okay.
staring at it, driving myself insane. That Sevatar at the bottom looks like a Galaxy class starship.
Interesting. Okay, I'm gonna have to go back and look at that then.
Go back and look at that, and I'm like, wow, wouldn't it be some stuff if they pulled a piece from that and they built the ship out of pieces of other missions,
whoa.
Like the Revenge is that deep.
You're blowing my mind again.
I mean, this is all about revenge, right? Like this is what they're doing, right? Like that's some real revenge. If you took years to build this stuff, we already know that Laura is going to be part of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he has knowledge of all this stuff too.
That's true.
Didn't he kind of try to download some of that stuff to get information from Data? I mean, you can always say he stole schematics. And if he can build other androids, they had a thing of androids, right? If you could build them to build, to have them build a ship, taking pieces from other places. They're already stealing weapons.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be something to do with that weapon they stole.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Then we'll probably talk about that in the next episode because that's where we really get introduced to who's on the ship and kind of what they're after. Sort of.
Kind of.
Not really. But that's how the episode ends. We see this giant ship come in to get something that's on Beverly's ship. We're not sure what exactly or who. Or you can make guesses, but anyway. So then the episode ends and we get but it doesn't really end because we get the closing credits. And as you know, if you're looking for clues for what's to come, I don't know, Darrell, what did you glean from those closing credits as far as what we can expect going forward? Anything?
No, I don't think I did.
Well, I just certain things jumped out at me. Given what we were shown,
I might have missed something. Go ahead.
Well, and so when I first saw those, like, are we being shown something? Is there anything here to become aware of? And then I was reading an interview with, or no, maybe I think I was listening to Terry Matalas, who's the showrunner and the guy who wrote this episode. He was on, I think it was Inglorious Treksperts episode that I listened to. Anyway, there are clues in these closing credits for things to come.
See? I got to go back and watch the closing credits then.
So here's a few things that I just jumped out at me. Whether they mean anything is, to be remains to be seen. But, we see a DNA strand. We've got Picard's son. Is there something there? We see a program starting. It's the 10 forward LA holodeck with safety protocols disengaged.
Oh.
What the heck is that? There's this image of all these little points of lights that are connected, and it looks like it's like a positronic brain. Of course, like you said, we have lore, so that's an obvious
that goes
one.
to that, right?
There's another message, the USS Constance, which is a Constellation class cruiser like the Stargazer, lost in action. What does that have to do with this? Picard had mentioned giving the Enterprise D painting to Geordi, who runs the Fleet Museum at the beginning of the episode, and we see a Fleet Museum display showing some ships, the Voyager, the original Voyager, the Enterprise A, some others. And then there's also this bit of text that gets shown, slowly being shown word by word, and it says, "Do not seek blame, do not seek anger," I think is what it's trying to say. I don't know if that's Rafi's handler or if it's something else. And there's a bunch more things that if you are freeze framing it, I'm sure you would pick it up, but I didn't bother doing that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to freeze. I will do, like the nutcase I am. I will freeze frame it today.
And I think I think we're going to have to pay close attention to each episode's end credits from now on.
Yeah, I wasn't giving. I just thought that they were doing like the music from the nostalgia point.
Yep, and the they're doing the Picard theme, I guess, season 3 theme, and then they as soon as they show, I forget what they call these things, but they show the top down outline of the Titan, and then suddenly the music changes to the music that they used for in First Contact.
Right. I'm calling it now. They're going to use an Easter egg from Insurrection. I'm calling it.
Yeah. Okay.
Calling it. I just have a feeling because they've used some music. They've used some music that's from that too. I noticed. It's from Insurrection. There's like when they're on the planet with them.
Mm-hmm.
There's the scene in Insurrection where when they first get on that, when Picard first is on that planet. That same similar music when he's looking at the Baku. Okay. It's the same similar music they've used in the show. And I'm like, we don't know where they really, really, really came from. Like they don't really get into that whole thing. And I'm like, they are good at taking things, right? Like the faces and right. Remember they kept using that cosmetic technology to keep themselves.
Well, and also their sister folk on the planet, they seem to be more advanced in some ways than
they were more right? Advanced. Remember, they're an older
species. Yes, that's
species.
Right. Yeah.
So it's just that they gave up that stuff.
Yes.
To be on that planet. We don't know what happened to them after another one where the Enterprise left and they're still sitting in their briar patch, just chilling.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Well, and that's now that you mention it, that nebula that Beverly's ship is in kind of reminded me
Looks
of
like a briar patch.
Yeah,
exactly. I don't think that's it.
But yeah,
I don't know, but we don't know what briar other like that can't be the only briar patch, right? It's like so. What is the deal with this one? Like, what is to that? Why? It can't be a mistake. You're not using stuff for no reason.
Yeah.
That costs money to do these effects. So you're not wasting money doing this just to be doing it.
Make it worth something for
sure. It's got to be worth something. So it makes me think of that. Like it has something. I'm thinking something's up with that a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Something.
And just like the Next Generation, all good things must end. And so this episode ends with there's actually a couple things, but they do end the episode proper with just a real brief For Annie, which was for Annie Wershing, who played the Borg Queen in the previous season, who had died recently. Yeah.
I didn't even know she was sick.
Yeah.
Until
I was a surprise to me.
Passed.
She had, I don't know if you know this, she made her television acting debut 20 years earlier on the Star Trek Enterprise episode, Oasis.
Oh yeah. I remember that.
Okay.
Yeah. Cause because I need things to go to bed. Sometimes I need like something to be on in the background, and one of my many on in the background things is to watch Star Trek shows.
Okay.
And so I've watched some of these episodes back and over. Like I'll just let it run all the way through, and the show will just keep going. And I remember seeing her many times. Like she was in a lot of shows that I used to watch. 24 she was in. It's just a list of I like procedurals, sometimes, and there's just like a ton of procedurals that she was in as well.
I just thought it was a classy thing for them to do
of course. Like she was the queen. She was the Borg queen, man.
And you have to. She died far too young. She was only 45.
I know that. Yeah. Again, like it's just so sad to see somebody, like an actor, just see anybody die that young. Mm-hmm. That it's just so bad. Yeah.
And that's the episode. But then I don't know if you have the same experience, but at the end of the episode, they show the trailer, the trailer for the season, and so they're giving us little bits, right?
Yeah.
And we get to see Lore. We get to see Geordi yelling at Lore.
Yes, we do.
We get to see Deanna mad at Will for leaving her and their daughter.
Right.
Worf still being a badass fighter, which I thought
Oh,
that
of
was,
course.
and looking so cool with his
I
white hair
know.
and his trimmed hair. Oh
I
my God.
worried when they said he was going to be what do they call it when you don't want to fight?
Oh,
Um,
pacifist?
a pacifist. Yeah, they said he said something like he was going to be a pacifist, and I was like, what?
It doesn't look like a pacifist in that trailer.
I know, well, I know, right? Well, it's the philosophy, right?
Sure, sure.
Is he a master though? Remember how we learn about there's a certain level that Klingons can reach to.
Yeah.
A Dharman master, I think they
Oh
called
yeah,
him.
yeah. Okay.
I wonder if he is one because he has that look, man, with the way his hair is and the sword and stuff. I'm looking forward to finding out.
And I think that little trailer ends with Picard in the center seat of the Titan, saying,
Because you know it's coming.
engage.
Exactly. You know it's coming.
Yeah.
It's gotta. Like there's no way. There's no way he's not gonna be on that ship giving orders because that's what Picard does.
Do you think? Okay, so considering how much nostalgia they're throwing at us, why not put him on the Enterprise F?
I don't know. I'm with you on that
because we do see it real quick in that scene with Rafi. She's looking for what the Red Lady is. We actually see a shot of the Enterprise F in that scene. So I'm glad to see the Titan. I think it's cool that we're seeing an adventure involving our next gen characters on a different ship that's not the Enterprise. I think that'd be maybe too much.
Yeah, well, I mean, or this ship gets destroyed halfway into the season and then they have to relocate because there has to be a way to get. They're all the way out there. They're all the way out where they are. There has to be a way to get. Worf and Geordi and Deanna are gonna meet up with them eventually, right? You have to get them all together.
That's true.
So you assume they have to come back.
Okay. Yeah.
There's somewhere in this season, and it's usually the halfway point, right? Before they give us the big, they usually do a finale halfway in, a mid-season finale, and then they take a break for like a couple weeks. That's usually the case with shows. What they've done previously anyway, with the Picard, with all the Star Trek shows, they've done that. They've taken halfway in, something like there's a mega cliffhanger that happens, and in that cliffhanger we get a break and then we come back. So I'm thinking whatever happens out here, they somehow make it back to Earth, or at least to where the Enterprise is, right? And then from there somehow the others wind up in the same spot because something happens to lure them out too. Like they all wind up having to meet up at the same place.
Right. Well, and I figure obviously it has something to do with Beverly and helping her.
Right.
And we do see in that trailer what looks like the Titan being at a starbase or something similar, because we see other other Federation starships flying around, and that's when Picard's like, engage, and then they get out of there.
Right.
What does Riker say? Let's boldly get the hell out of here, or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, okay, that's it. Yeah, interesting. That I hadn't really thought about how do they get the rest of the band together?
Yeah, because I'm like, they're so far away from each other, so they have to be able to get them back with them, and so plus Geordi. Didn't they say Geordi had 2 daughters that were in Starfleet?
Or
was it just the one?
I
think it said there was 2. I could have sworn that they were saying something like that there were two of his daughters were in Starfleet, or maybe I'm remembering something wrong. I am an old.
Yeah, I don't recall that at all.
I could have sworn that I remember them saying that he had 2.
So while you're looking that up, I just looked up the released air dates for each episode, and it looks like they are releasing everything. There is no break.
Oh wow, they're not even taking a break with this. So then what is if they're not going to bring back Discovery this year, then what? Unless Strange New Worlds is coming back earlier.
Yeah, I don't remember when that's coming out. But this started in this
Huh.
episode aired on February 16th,
Mm-hmm.
and then unless I'm, my adding seven to each. Oh, seven. See, um,
Yep.
to these, we end up with the last episode, the final episode 10, airing on April 20th.
Right. Oh, yeah, I'm wrong. It's only Sydney LaForge. I don't. Then what am I thinking of? Where there's two daughters. I don't know. Maybe a comic or something I'm thinking of. But and I wonder, do we even know that Laura's going to be one of the bad guys? We just assume
yeah,
that.
we just assume because he's Lore, but yeah,
Right.
I kind of thought, he's kind of like the Borg Queen in season 2. That's his role here. He's
Right.
he's at odds with them, but he ends
Mm-hmm.
up having to help them or needing to help them for some reason.
Right. So it could be something even
So we get in
maybe
Ursat's data through
right.
him.
Well, I mean, he's been out there. I mean, we never got to get the story of when they just shot him out into space for a while. We never get to really. We get those adventures of what he was doing while he was out there. I mean, he met that entity that got destroyed in that episode. And he met up with the Packlets for a minute. He knows what he did
Oh,
to
that's right.
those guys. But we also don't know the rest. Like he could have, who knows what there might be something he knows that they need, and that's why
Yes.
Geordi is the one, because he knows, he knows how to get things out of his brain, because he's worked with Data so many times. He's trusted him with uh with the schematics for his body. It's only him and Beverly, the only two that really know how Data's body works.
Yeah.
So maybe that's how you get LaForge back, right?
Yep.
Plus, his daughter's out there. Maybe he hears something also. And then we still don't know who his wife is, right? I mean, at one time it was Dr. Leah Brahms,
Right. I
but
was just gonna say, but that was a future timeline,
yeah, that
wasn't
was
it?
a future timeline. So that could definitely not be the case for this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we don't know who his wife is, but as if it was her, then I could be like, oh, she helps them steal the Enterprise or something.
So, okay, so we've talked through the first episode. Picard season 3 is a next gen reunion, as we all know now. How are you feeling about Star Trek Picard, generally speaking, given this first episode?
I'm really like, this is the excitement that I wanted for the first season. So I'm loving it. I love the Easter eggs. I'm loving getting the crew back together. I love old man stuff because I'm an old man, so I love old man. Let's get the band back together, and I love stuff about friendship. Like
Sure.
I love when it's like loyalty and friendship and all that kind of stuff. I love it when you come calling and it's like, let me get my coat. Like I'm out.
Picard even says to Riker, "I can't ask you to do that. I can't ask you to put yourself in danger or something like that." And Riker was like, "Since when?"
Exactly.
Right?
That's the
He's all
stuff I
in.
love, man. That's the stuff I love.
Yeah.
Like there's no question. Like
Yeah.
we are, like the call is put out and here we go. Like we're on our way. Like so I want that. Like this is the stuff that I always wanted to kind of see, and we're getting that. I mean,
But do you think are we liking it? Because I agree with you. This is even just on the first episode alone, this is much better than any of season 2, most of season 1 for me. But is it just because it's the nostalgia factor, or is there more to the story that we've seen so far?
it's not just nostalgia, because I can look at I can look at Picard. As much as I love Star Trek, I look at Picard seasons 1 and 2, and I know it's messy, and I knew I was looking at some messy stories in Picard. There were plot holes all throughout. Like when I was watching those episodes, it didn't keep me from enjoying it because I wanted to see Picard so bad. I could see him being at the vineyard drinking wine with his friends and still enjoy it. But I know when a story doesn't look, it not working for me. And so I'm not, like I don't have a problem seeing that in my brain. Like I don't have that issue. So I have been. It's like with Boba Fett also. Like I used to love that character Boba Fett, right? Star Wars, I was such a fan of the original Star Wars and all that. But when I looked at Book of Boba Fett, I could see it was a mess.
Mm.
I could see I was watching a story that was not very entertaining, right? Even though I loved seeing old man Boba Fett. Like I'm not that kind of nostalgic person. Like I know there's a lot of people are that way with stuff, and I just can't turn my brain off enough that I don't know when I'm watching something that's not executed very well.
Okay. So are you saying that you think this is?
So far, this episode we just talked about was executed very well.
Yeah, I would agree.
That could change. We could get
Mm-hmm.
halfway in and it'd be like, oh my God, why'd they do this?
Well,
another Gollum? What are they doing?
we'll have to wait to
Yeah, we
talk
have to
about
wait
this,
and
but
see.
a slight preview. That second episode, I wasn't all that impressed with, but we'll table that discussion.
We'll talk it through. We'll talk it through.
Maybe I'll enjoy it
break
more
down.
given that conversation. But
We'll break it down because
uh,
because I think episode 3 was the one that wasn't as strong.
okay. Like I
It
said,
had parts. It
I
had parts.
okay. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm
Okay. When you do, well, I can't wait to talk about this.
okay. Good.
What are we going to piggyback? Like one episode, you'll be like, it was all right. Then another episode, you'll be like, this is great.
All right. Oh, wow. So, Darrell, thank you for joining me to discuss. This has been so much fun.
Yeah, I love that. I love doing this.
Like you were saying earlier about, not really having anybody to talk to about Star Trek. I kind of feel the same way. And so this is, you are the perfect person to do this with. So I'm very much looking forward to our future conversations.
Me too. I'm having fun with this. Makes me want to watch the episode again now because you brought up stuff I didn't see. I didn't remember at the end. I have to rewatch it so I could just go to the end again.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me here. We'll be doing this again in the future, near future, and I guess tell people, Darrell, how they can find your plethora of very interesting and diverse podcasts out there.
Oh, they're not as many as they used to be. I'm an older man now. I can't do all that like we used to. But for DC All Stars, which is a DC Comics central podcast, and we cover a bunch of DC comics. There's no limit whether it's a movie, a TV show, or comics. We cover all of that, and of course, Peter Rios is one of the hosts on that with me, and Hassan T is the other host, and we have a blast talking comics. It's a
fun show. I love it.
On that show, we love doing it, and it's a lot of fun. And then we have there's another DC kind of centric podcast, but it's Batman, the Batman world, and it's called Gotham by Geeks, and that's with me and Hassan T and our friend Russ, and we cover all things the world of Batman in that one. So we're probably gonna have our brains explode when we watch the Flash movie because there's 2 Batmans in that, so we'll lose our minds for a minute. So we have that, and there's one called Culture Trapping, where it's me, it's Gail Cologne, it's Sean Pryor, it's Julian Lytle, and we're all people of color and geeks, and we just get into we just cover pop culture. We dip into all of it: TV, movies, comics. There's no limit. Music. We all just kind of get together and just talk about everything.
That is another great podcast. I love listening to you guys talk about this stuff.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun. I enjoy. I'm glad people are listening to that. That was one of the things where we like talking to each other about stuff anyway, and it was like, why don't we just do a podcast on it? and just have fun with it. And that's what we do. Um, there's another one I do with my friend Peter and my other friend Joel, and it's called Retro Movie Geek, and we cover movies that are 20 years or older. And we are all over the map with those episodes in terms of films like horror, comedy, serious films, off the beaten path, indie. Like it doesn't matter. We pick these. We have a list. I mean, and the list always grows because we're getting older, and we've been doing that show for a while. But it's a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun with that as well. And one other one, it's not one that you can listen to with your kids, especially. Don't even have it on with in a group setting, because there's language. There's a lot of language in that sometimes. It's called Nothing's On, and that's me and Gil Cologne and Raphael Sands and Christopher Kazicki, and sometimes Juan Castro, who's an inker in comics. And it's like, what if you were in a bar or somewhere and you didn't worry about what you said, you just said, you talked about a whole bunch of crazy subjects. Sometimes we just talk about our lives on top of talking about whatever news of the day that comes up, and we do that one. And by the title, it should tell you some of the stuff that comes out of our mouths in those conversations. So it's pretty crazy at times. But we've been doing that for a long time. That's like one of the longest podcasts I've done. I think we've done it more than 15 years of doing that podcast together.
Oh, wow.
So it's yeah, it's been a long time. We know each other for almost too long. We it's one of those. We know each other so long, it's ridiculous. We even argue on the podcast sometimes. We've done that. We've just argued on the podcast about stuff, but we can. It's a situation where you can. You've known each other so long, you can talk about anything and debate, because we all don't agree on stuff, and we have debates and all that kind of stuff. But most of the time, it's just funny. It's just a funny, silly. Now we're old men, so it's just a bunch of old men talking. Pretty much, that's what it is now. So yeah, and I've already mentioned the one with JK's Happy Hour. So
okay,
I think that's all of them.
And you can find all of those at the very least at Taylor Network of Podcasts.com.
Yes,
is that right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Darrell, I think we're done. I think we can beam ourselves out of here, if you'll pardon
the beam out. Yeah. To beam out.
And join us next time for when we discuss the next episode or so. Maybe we'll cover 2. I got to talk to Darrell about the particulars of this.
I'm up for it. Just let me know. Just let me know I feed my dog and walk him long enough so he won't bother me while I'm recording. All right. Can't let him do that. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again, Darrell, and we'll talk soon. And with that, thanks for listening, everybody. And come back and join us, and we'll talk more Star Trek Picard.